going back to add this in the front of the video before the video starts because this can't be stressed enough. People build these things sometimes and they're disappointed. They don't go, it's 2 hours and it's not that hot. Masonry heaters with thousands of pounds of mass and brick, it can take an hour and a half to 2 hours for everything to start radiating out. They're not meant for a Friday night with your girlfriend, sipping your Cabernet or your Pinot or whatever you drink. They're for firing twice a day, every day, 2 to 3 times a day, every day through the 6 to 8 week coldest part of the winter. Once it's fired up, firing it twice a day keeps everything relatively warm, and it's not allowed to go cold. You do not get quick heat out of these. It's not good for a garage. It is not good for a shed. A nice hybrid, though, if you can afford it, is the ceiling we talk about. Put a big slab of soapstone on the ceiling, because then it'll start throwing heat in less than 10 minutes if you can make your ceiling soapstone instead of brick. But you have to understand what these things are. No quick heat. Hey everybody, it's Stove Talk with Matt. In this video, I want to talk about using an old iron wood stove like this old Colebrookdale Severin and using it as your firebox or your central core inside a much larger masonry heater. Basically, you just build a very large brick box around this old wood stove. I don't know why people don't do it. Well, it's the easiest way to make a full-size masonry heater, in my opinion. I've watched a lot of videos. I've never seen anybody do it. And the theme of this channel is, this is Gouda, by the way. I'm watching him for a few weeks. The theme of this channel is simple designs that are cheap that anybody can do. And that will always remain the theme of this channel. So if you don't want to stick with me for all the details, you basically, get somebody to build a full-size masonry heater, $20,000. Go to Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, get an old beaten up iron wood stove, $300, whatever it might be, $400. Build a very tall and relatively thin brick box all the way up to the ceiling around this wood stove. This is stripped down. I've taken it off the doors. There were side panels. I've stripped it down. It's still like 350 pounds stripped down. And a good old iron wood stove is, you can't, if you're not used to them, you can't imagine how heavy it is. It's hard. It would be hard for 2 football players to pick this up and move it. They'd be able to pick it up and move it, but you just can't imagine how heavy these things are. Then you know you're dealing with a real quality product. If you're looking at, if it's light, walk away. It's not going to be light, but if it should be ridiculously heavy, beyond almost what you would expect, way beyond what you would expect. It's shockingly heavy, how good and how heavy and the real good old wood stoves are. Just to impress that upon you if you're looking. So basically you'd want one, of course, where if you can see that this one vents out the top and also vents out the back. Many wood stoves have the option to go top or back. If I was building a masonry heater around this, I could use regular brick. That's one of the advantages. You don't need fire brick, in my opinion. You could use regular brick if you're doing it on the cheap. So assume I was building my full-size masonry heater here. Bring in whatever, my 700 or 800 brick. I would first I would get 3 2-foot sections of stovepipe, and just have the stovepipe going straight out the top of this old wood stove. The stovepipe typically comes in 2-foot sections. I would have my stovepipe be not like a rocket stove. I wouldn't get that close, like 2 inches. There's just no reason to get that close. But I wouldn't have like a foot of space either. I think having it somewhat close creates speed and draft, and I probably would be 4 or 5 inches. My pipe would be 4 or 5 inches from the very top of the brick box that I'm going to build around this. We'll talk about the top of your bricks could be, instead of the very ceiling of the bricks, could be soapstone. We'll talk about that. So I would only have about 1 inch of space between my brick in the front and my iron wood stove. Of course, you need to have a space because your iron wood stove expands at a different rate. Can't touch your brick; it'll crack your brick. You could have 1/2 inch, 1 inch. I'd probably just have 3 or 4 inches on the sides. I'd get pretty close on the sides. And then your pipe would be, of course, your chimney would start at the very bottom, at the very back, behind the wood stove. Your chimney pipe would start at the ground with, you know, a 6 inch round, whatever stovepipe. Most stovepipe is 6 inch diameter. Cut at the bottom, maybe to be safe. You make a bigger hole, 7 or 8 inches, and then you just run it. The pipe then just runs straight back up through the top of the brick box. So you have, your pipes would be very close to each other. You have a pipe going up, say 6 feet from the top of the wood stove, and I would take the baffle out of the you know, I've taken everything out of here. I don't want a baffle that drives all the hot gases forward. I'd want everything just to go straight up into my pipe. I'd have you know, I'd be just 4 or 5 inches away from the top. Then all the gases would funnel down along the sides of your brick box, and they'd find the pipe at the very bottom. Your pipe is hidden, you know, and behind the wood stove with the 6-inch hole or 7 or 8 inch hole at the bottom. The pipe would not be outside the brick box, in my opinion, how to do this the easiest and best way to create draft quickly. And the pipe would be inside the brick box. So your pipes would just be a few inches away from each other, and of course this pipe would go out through the top of the brick box, or it could go up, you know, an inch away from the top, and then it could go left or right out the sides. You could do it like that, and this will create, this design in my opinion creates tremendous speed and momentum in the first part of your chimney. So you don't need the greatest chimney on the outside. You know, if you have some BS bullcrap chimney, you know, you create a ton of speed and momentum inside the brick box, and you know, therefore you don't need a whole lot. I'll just leave it like that. If anybody's trying to do their own thing, you know, you know, in terms of the chimney as it leaves the house or goes through the roof or whatever. For this design, don't need, you know, you don't need 5 meters of insulated chimney through the center of the house. Just because the pipe inside the brick box is so darn hot, it's going to heat up so fast and draw so heavily. And again, if you can get your brick box 6 feet high, your first 6 feet of chimney is superheated chimney, and it's going to pull like crazy, in my opinion. It's from my experience with when I designed my masonry heater, which did not, you know, I just built a firebox with fire brick. I didn't use an old wood stove. Let's see, what are some other, oh, of course, you know, you need to buy a nice, you know, well, if you can afford it, a big glass door for the front, you know, is nice. Fire Speaking, I just ordered some stuff from them. Fire Speaking seems to be the best option. Firespeaking.com for reasonably priced masonry heater supplies and glass doors. I've seen like glass doors online for like $2,000, and it's just outrageous. And again, firespeaking.com, you know, they seem, I've talked to the owner, they seem competent, and they're not outrageous. So you would need to put a glass door in, or some sort of door, of course, inside your brick box. You know, you need to be able to get the wood in there. Of course, you're making a brick box or a brick rectangle around this. So you know, if you didn't really, you know, to do it on the cheap, you could get that. It's now up to like $47. That high flame door on Amazon is an iron door, which is 8 by 8. I mean, you could get away with that. It's, you know, $47. When I bought mine, it was like $35 or $36. It's on Amazon, called High Flame. You just look up wood stove doors or ash clean out doors. You could use that. Of course, you need to build a door into your brick on this side, so you can get your wood in there. But whenever you get your old wood stove, you take the doors off, you strip it down. This is an old Colebrookdale Severin. I had it in here, but it was in front. You don't want me to just talk for 5 minutes as to why I need to go back to my old stove. That sits back into sits back into the opening and vents straight up. There was just I had some health issues, and I can't afford any sort of carbon monoxide or any sort of smoke backup because this sat in front, and I had a 2-foot horizontal entranceway, a 2-foot horizontal run with a damper, which was stupid. It's shown in other videos if you're interested, but I couldn't take a chance. I had to. This was a beast. It was ridiculously hot. It heated up to 800 degrees on top, but I could easily get it hotter, but I didn't overcook it. I had to remove it, and the old one's going back in. But anyway, this one I'm keeping this one for the reasons we're talking about now. And before I start rambling about a bunch of BS, let me make sure I have all the details. So underneath your door in the brick, you'd want to put in, you get the 2 little pipes, like you could get at a plumbing place for your air. Two pipes. You don't need a whole lot of primary air in a wood stove firebox. You'd be surprised. A lot of wood stoves have this 2 little tiny openings the size of dimes. You say, that's all the air it's getting, my wood stove? Yeah, but I would, you get your stainless steel pipes, not copper, and a lot of them have little caps, little screw-on caps. You need to put 2. To me, I would err on the side of more air, of course. 2 half-inch openings inside diameter, 2 half-inch pipes in the bottom, below the door, feeding the air right into the bottom of this wood stove, which is acting as your firebox. And you could even, if you wanted to play with it, you could even put, you could put secondary air in. You could put like a U-shaped pipe through your brick that draws, with two air openings in the brick, with your pipe running right in front of the start of your, the chimney, and then you punch your little holes, and you punch your 10 or 15 holes in. That would provide secondary air, preheated enough where it would work. If you need, if you wanted to cut down on smoke, I don't think it would make that much of a difference. If you provided what's nice about a stove like this that has the big pieces of refractory inside. It's the refractory, the lining. It's basically like whatever Firebrick, Colebrookdale company used in, when they started building this stuff in the late 70s. I don't know what it is. I'd love to know, but it's just great, rock solid. It's not to protect the iron. This iron does not need protection from flame. It's to reflect the heat back and create higher temperatures in the firebox to burn up more smoke. When this thing gets cooking, there is no smoke, just a heat signature out the chimney, 0. It has no secondary air. It doesn't have any of those rocket stove bells and whistles. So it's the refractory absorbs heat, but it also reflects heat back, creating higher temperatures and burning up smoke, which is fuel. I'll do the rest here just over this one image because I keep recording with the video camera. The file size gets enormous. And this is going to be a lot of detail, and it's going to be all over the place. There'll be long pauses. I'm sorry, guys. I have no, it's hard sometimes just to get everything entertaining for you here. I'm just trying to deliver the information. So this was my masonry heater. The basic concept of a masonry heater is a box inside of a box. To me, the simplest foolproof design is to have the hot air wrap around the firebox, find the pipe or this chimney, which starts with its opening on the floor. And I had this extra insulation. You don't have to insulate inside the box. It is ridiculous. That's like what the rocket stove people do. But I had it. I was going to throw it out. You might as well use it, right? I used what I needed. I had the extra. But okay, so this is basically the concept. Instead of my firebox there, you just, inside your brick box, just placing an old wood stove. Take the doors off. It should vent from the top. I think you understand the concept by now. This way you might not need, I don't think you would need one fire brick for the entire stove then. You could use old reclaimed brick. To make your box around your stove, the only thing that's going to be symmetrical, or pavers are symmetrical, they're 4x8. Regular brick is not symmetrical. 2 up is not the same as 1 across. If you use regular brick, you'll have to have a good wet saw or be okay or comfortable making cuts with bricks or chiseling good cuts. I like pavers because they're symmetrical and there's very few cuts if you're just building a box around your firebox, or in this case, a wood stove. So with this design, don't think you need any fire bricks. And yeah, if you're worried about blasting out your bricks because the chimney's going just 4 inches close to the top, your top ceiling, if it's brick, if your ceiling of your box at the top that your first chimney that's coming from the wood stove is going up into, if it's just regular brick, those that think they're going to blast it out with heat because it's just regular brick, then move it 5 or 6 inches away. I would kind of err to keep it close, though. It helps draft. Sometimes they put these rocket stoves in these brick boxes, and the rocket stove riser only goes up 4 feet, and the brick box goes up, to 7 feet. It's just dead space. It just, they talk about stratification, and to me, that's mostly hogwash. I'll talk about that some other time. I'd rather have the air and the gases, which are sometimes very harmful, moving through the stove, not lingering in corners. And anyway, that's another topic. So yeah, here my central core, of course, for my masonry heater, is fire brick. And somebody might be saying, well, that red brick is so close. It is. It's tight, but it works. I only have 3.5 inches on each side. And again, the gases here are being exiting out the front, so they have to wrap around the sides inside that tight space, 3.5 inches on both sides. Remember, with the idea of the iron stove as the core and the brick box around the iron stove, it's got all the space it needs just to funnel down the sides of the brick to find the pipe in the back. You're not going to have any tight fits like this, because you're just blasting your heat up to the top and then letting it funnel down to find the pipe at the bottom. For as much mass as possible, if you have a lot of extra red brick, you could extend the back part, the part behind the wood stove, behind the iron stove. If you extend it back 3 feet and put the pipe 3 feet back away from the wood stove, you have a lot of then space in between. You could pile up cinder blocks with the holes in them, that allow a lot of gases to go wherever they want. You pile up, 500 pounds of cinder block, it's just 500 pounds of more mass. And although it's in the stove, the whole stove starts to radiate out. It's not like someone will say, well, your cinder block's going to heat up. It's in the stove. It's just going to throw its heat back into the stove and go out the pipe, and you're going to lose it. I don't think it works. My masonry stove has been tested for draft, but not the way it should be tested. I think the more mass, the more thousands of pounds you get these things, the idea, it just radiates out. So a lot of people, in my opinion, make mistakes. They put their batch box rocket stove into their brick box, and they've got it's a small little batch box in this huge open box. It's a waste of space. Pile up cinder blocks with a cinder block allowing 2 holes. You're not going to bottle up your gases, and you're piling up an extra 1,000 pounds of cinder block. It's just going to radiate. It's going to hold heat longer. So that's just an option. Of course, for this design with the wood stove, iron wood stove as the core, and with your red brick is just a few inches off the sides of the iron wood stove, it's best hopefully if somebody would have a high ceiling, it'd be better to go up 8 to 10 feet. You have this huge run of pipe and have all those hot gases. It would be kind of like a tower type thing, not long, just real compact, but high, very, very high. And again, red brick can take the heat. It just doesn't like huge swings and rapid changes in heat. Red brick is fired to 1,800 degrees or even more if it's clay and shale regular brick. Can take the heat. Doesn't like to go ice cold to super hot, back to ice cold. So if you're blasting, your pipe is blasting up 4 inches away from red brick, and your ceiling or the top should be 2 layers of red brick, never one, for mass and for safety, then you just start your fire a little, don't rage it up right away. Let that red brick at the top heat up more slowly. It'll last if you heat it up slowly, cool it down slowly. So what else did I want to? In terms of, refractory mortar, guys, is usually white. You're making a red brick box around your wood stove. You want it, and if you have a glass door, you want it to look kind of nice or cool. And the refractory cement I would not use. You're not going to need it on the sides. It's just not that hot. And of course, at the top, to hold your red brick ceiling at the top, you need lintels. And you need and see that white ceramic fiber, whatever it's ceramic. What do you call it? It's not fiberboard, but it's flexible insulation. It's you can find it on Amazon. High heat insulation. It's good to over 2,000 degrees. Use that to shield your lintels a bit. Wrap your lintels as the best you can with this sort of insulation, so the lintel isn't just blasted from the heat that's coming out the top of your pipe. Again, I like just 4 inches. I like it a little tighter, like a J rocket stove on a barrel. Although I wouldn't go 2 inches, I go 4 or 5. Again, people they have these risers that go 2 feet, and then there's all this open space. I don't think it actually slows everything down. And some of those people could, if they don't have a great chimney, could have a draft issue. Anyway, so the lintel that's holding up your brick ceiling, or your not lintel, you would use an angle iron. Angle is much stronger than a flat lintel. To me, a lintel's flat. Insulate it the best you can with mineral wool or this type of insulation. Just the one or two that's right in the direct path of the chimney, blasting the 800 to 1,000 degrees up. And also at the top, if you have a little bit of extra money, to put a big slab of soapstone on the top would be really ideal, because the soapstone is going to get hot in just 10 minutes, and it's going to start throwing a huge amount of heat, that top ceiling, if it's soapstone. Where these brick boxes around a rocket stove or mason or a rocket stove core, or or a box in a box, a firebox of refractory brick surrounded by a red brick masonry heater, it does take a good hour and a half for all the bricks to really start radiating out their heat. It is not for a quick heat. It's not for garages or sheds, and they just don't work. Heating it once on a Friday night. They're meant for the bricks to take up to 2 hours to get real hot, and then they're meant to stay hot for 6 to 8 weeks in a row by firing it twice a day. It takes a long time for the heat to really start radiating out. You build one of these things, you have to be patient. The hybrid is to put a big slab of from your local kitchen countertop store. Get a square cut of soapstone, because that will start radiating out the heat big time in less than 10 minutes, which is a nice, and then you have all those other bricks going down. I think it's a nice, whenever you can include a slab of soapstone, it is a nice hybrid masonry heater. Let me pause this, see if there's anything I missed. I'm sure there's other things to talk about. Yeah, your mortar joints for the red brick, they should be pretty small. Your joints should be kind of as small as possible. If you're not a bricklayer, you have to do a decent sized joint so you can make up for errors and mistakes as you need to. I would use the old 3-part sand to 1-part fire clay, and I would add, that's what the traditionalists used. I don't like that. Everything slides around like crazy and you can't keep working. I like adding to that 1-part lime and a little bit of type S mortar cement. The lime will stain your bricks white, give it that white look. Some people don't like that. So your red brick box could be 3-part sand, 1-part fire clay, and then you could just do 1-part type S cement, I think would be fine. It's not, the heat is not going to be an issue all around the sides. It's not, and your 3-part sand and 1-part clay hold up to the heat. The cement, I hear you, might not, but it's only 1 part out of the 4 parts. The top ceiling, that should be just, your roof, a little bit more sand and clay, a little bit less cement, so it can take just that heat blast that it's going to get constantly from a pipe that's just 4 inches away. Well, I guess that's it. Just the main points summarized. You get your old iron wood stove that vents out the top. The iron stove should be heavy as all hell, and you be able to take the doors off. You just want something where you can open up your door, build into your brick box. It's just something to toss wood into that can hold 3 sections of stovepipe heading straight up to your roof. That's all. Something reliable and durable and solid that you can just toss big pieces of wood into. I probably would remove the baffle, but you'd have to, if low smoke is of importance to you, then you want an old iron stove that has fire brick. Fire brick will create higher temperatures in the firebox versus if it's like some Vermont castings. Old wood stoves are just iron. The fire brick is not just there to protect the iron. It really helps to radiate the heat forward and between itself to create higher temperatures, which creates low smoke. The baffle, or making like a baffle with high heat fiberboard, like a half baffle, so it might help with the smoke a bit because it keeps everything in the firebox a little bit longer before it's allowed to go up the pipe. But you don't want a full baffle. These wood stoves are designed to throw everything forward. Well, maybe you do, but I like to be able to open the door at any time and add pieces of wood without my living room getting smoked out. The baffle pushes everything out into the living room. Your living room gets smoked out. On the wood stove, I played around with the baffle in that Colebrookdale Severin that I just took out. Half baffle for a wood stove that's standalone. It helps. It really makes a huge difference with heat. I have a whole video on how important the baffle is in having an old iron wood stove heat your house. But in this case, you're not. It's the bricks that are ultimately going to heat up to heat your house. And I would probably do a half baffle with ceramic fiberboard, just a small little lip, so the gases are finding the chimney going straight up to your ceiling quickly enough. So if I want to just open the damn glass door and add 3 pieces of oak, I can do that without any smoke coming out in the living room. But just enough baffle to hold it in the firebox a little bit longer. I'd say, what's a half second? I don't know. I just get the feeling that would low smoke. You want fire brick in your old wood stove, or have a big ass iron wood stove you could line with fire brick on your own or something. And then oh boy, well, no reason to have a whole. I've done other videos on how to create low smoke, and this is getting long enough, eh? So okay, well, it's hard to find these old wood stoves. If you got one at a garage sale or whatever, or close by on Craigslist, and you can take the door off and it vents straight up. You might want to grab it for $250, and even if it's all rusty, I think it's a great core for a very simple masonry heater. Thanks for being here, guys.